If you love liberty, declare your independence by signing the Shire Society Declaration at shiresociety.com.
Welcome to Bitcoin Embassy New Hampshire. Yay! We have our own embassy. The idea behind this presentation is not to be a presentation, we want it to be interactive. So I'm looking to stimulate conversation. We'll talk about what's been in the news. We'll talk about the different paths that Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Cash ABC and Bitcoin Cash Satoshi Vision are taking, and what the best things to do to protect your money during this time, and probably speculate a little bit on what happens with Bitcoin Cash moving forward. What I don't want this to be, and what this was not intended to be, is a Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash discussion. That split happened over a year ago, and it's yesterday's news. Today we have two primary Bitcoin currencies. We've got Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, and we're just going to discuss what's going on the Bitcoin Cash side. So, a little bit of history, and you guys are more than welcome to fill in things that aren't on this chart, but just a little bit about how we got to Bitcoin Cash in the first place. During Bitcoin's evolution, it became apparent early on that scaling was going to be an issue. That Bitcoin on its own, the way it was designed, with the limits in place that were there, it was unlikely to be able to scale to any size. And when we talk about scaling to any size, we're talking about scaling to the size of even a PayPal, not even scaling to the size of Visa, MasterCard, or something like that. So there was a recognition that something had to be done. There were basically two paths that developed out of that. One path, the Bitcoin path, said, okay, let's look to technological solutions and maintain more or less the same framework that we have today, same block size and things like that. Let's see if we can improve it through technology. And you had the Bitcoin Cash, the big blocker side, that said, well, this is silly. Even Satoshi talked about increasing the size of the block to allow more transactions to fill them up, and that can give us scaling right there. There was disagreement there, and in the end, Bitcoin ABC software was developed, and it eschewed a couple things that the Bitcoin side was going to continue to go down the path towards. First of all, Bitcoin had in their plans for a number of years to implement SegWit, or segregated witness, as another feature of Bitcoin. The big blockers didn't really like the idea of building side chains. They felt that things would be best if they were kept on the original chain itself, and they did not implement that in the ABC protocol. In the end, ABC did not implement SegWit. They increased the block size, and then on the Bitcoin side, you had the user-activated soft fork that enabled SegWit, but did not enable, at that time, a commitment to the increased block size that was supposed to happen in November of 2017. So with all that, kind of brings us to after the split. The Bitcoin Cash side and the Bitcoin ABC software re-enabled a lot of opcodes that were used in earlier versions of BTC. That gave them some features back that they could use. They came out with a plan of periodic hard forks. They were going to embrace them, and periodically, every 6 months or a year, enable a hard fork. And in this latest hard fork, and they've hard forked, I think, twice successfully. In the latest one, we have a competing software standing up against Bitcoin ABC in the form of Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, which is being promoted by Wright. So, Bitcoin Cash's direction, as of what we know today and and what we've read about and things like that, they want to remain. Bitcoin Cash has increased their block size. So originally they went from the 1 megabit, which is block size, which is where Bitcoin still is. They went to 4 megabyte. Then they went to 8 megabyte. And they are now going to 32 megabyte. On the Bitcoin ABC side, they don't feel there's any reason to go beyond 32 megabyte. Specifically, the guy who developed it, and does anybody remember the gentleman's name? The French gentleman. I want to say Ariel, but that's not
Ari
it.
Sachet?
Yes, thank you.
Amori, maybe?
Yeah. I was listening to a discussion with him, and when they did the Bitcoin Cash stress test, they threw tons of real transactions at their live chain to see what would happen. This happened a month or two ago. They found out that the largest block size that anybody could put together was about 22 megabytes, and they saw strange things happen in the chain. They saw things happen that they would not have expected, and they didn't think were good, which is great. That's not to say that's a bad test. That's exactly why you do a stress test, to reveal those sorts of problems and reveal things that you may not have thought of. And in his mind, he says, 32 megabytes is way beyond the actual usage of the chain right now. So why not? Let's look at this stuff. The other philosophy that they have is, let's identify, and this is his personal philosophy, let's identify the most expensive things to fix and do those first. So in other words, the things that are most likely to require the most coding, the most man hours to do, let's work on those. So they are holding at 32 megabyte and don't see a reason to move forward in the near future, and they want to continue to identify those things as they identify them. Flipping over here because I was just reading an article that was discussing some of this stuff. Bitcoin ABC is also going to introduce a couple other changes, and the first and the biggest one is called CTOR, or Canonical Transaction Ordering. So basically the way transactions get placed into blocks is sort of haphazard. As a block becomes available or transactions get all bundled together, there you're in this block. And even if there is an older transaction, it may go into a newer block and like that. Their idea is to basically place those into a specific order as they join the blockchain. They say that's going to give some technical benefits and will improve future scaling. And the second change is a new
What's that order look like? I mean, do you have any idea?
Excuse me?
What's that order look like that how are they ordering these things? Oldest to newest,
cool.
Biggest to smallest?
Theirs will be in actual timestamp order.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be their plan going forward.
So it's canonical, not chronological?
Correct.
Okay.
The second change is a new piece of script, which is op_check data sig, or DSV. This extends Bitcoin Cash's features most notably by enabling oracles, which will allow for a certain class of smart contracts, and introduce a number of smaller technical fixes like minimum size for transactions. So the Bitcoin Cash side of this hard fork isn't really that drastic. They're streamlining and improving upon how blocks enter the chain. Not a bad thing. I'm going to take their word for it that it has some benefit for scaling and for performance. That's good. And they are bringing in a Ethereum-like change. It allows them to do some things that are not capable on the current Bitcoin ABC software. It's not a bad thing. It's nothing really earth-shattering. So that's on the Bitcoin Cash side, and that's most prominently represented by Roger Ver and Jihan Wu, who runs Bitmain. I would say those are the two main promoters of Bitcoin ABC software. That's the side they've sort of chosen. In this civil war that's sort of going on, so many civil wars in blockchain. On the other side, we have kind of a consortium of two people. Calvin Ayre, who is a billionaire. He owns CoinGeek, and he owns the largest single mining pool on the Bitcoin Cash side. And you have Craig S. Wright, who is famously known as the guy who claims to be Satoshi.
Fotoshi.
Fotoshi.
I've heard it called.
I've heard that called that many times too. So whether he is or whether he isn't,
He's not until he proves it.
yeah. And on that, let's talk about that Craig Wright thing a little bit. So a couple of the things that happened when this whole Craig Wright thing burst out. He got together with some reporters, and he got together with a couple experts in blockchain development.
Experts.
Well, I'll say Gavin Andresen was in the room. Do you know who Gavin is?
I don't know.
Yeah. So when Satoshi decided to look to turn over some of the day-to-day responsibilities of Bitcoin, he looked for somebody who was really active, really understood where things were going as sort of a second in command, and that was Gavin Andresen. Gavin was very prominent on the Bitcoin boards. He was a real contributor, and by a lot of people's telling,
He's also a Free Talk Live amplifier.
he was an amplifier. Is he still?
I don't think he is.
Damn it.
He has all the access. Once an amplifier, and always an amplifier as far as we're concerned.
But Gavin brought an air of maturity. I think that's how Satoshi put it. He talked about him as somebody who had, he wasn't a cowboy. You know, he understood that software development, as exciting as it sounds, is really a slow, methodical slog to get to a good working product. And Satoshi indicated that he liked that about Gavin, and eventually Gavin became the primary contributor to the Bitcoin code. And as time goes on, he and Mike Kern are pretty much the ones that have control of the code from a GitHub point of view. They're the ones that can finalize commits and things like that. So they were really, really in charge of Bitcoin. And as these guys are coming up, and specifically Gavin, Satoshi is playing less and less of a role. And when Satoshi finally says goodbye to Bitcoin and disappears forever as far as we know, Gavin's the last person that he was in communication with, and it was very clear, he was very clear that I'll leave this in Gavin's capable hands. So that brings us back to Craig Wright. Craig Wright has made this claim in an Australian newspaper. It's made news all over the world. Oh my God, we found Satoshi. And he says he can prove it. He gets some people together. He gets some reporters together. He gets Gavin Andresen in the room. They begin to work on a laptop that has been provided by Craig Wright, that is sealed in the box, never been touched, never been anything. They unseal the laptop, they plug it into the wall, they get it connected to Wi-Fi, they load an Electrum wallet. And once the wallet is loaded, they give the laptop over to Craig, and Craig signs a message using one of the private keys that's attributed to Satoshi Nakamoto. So, reporters, yeah, okay, you had a bunch of reporters in the room. You had Gavin friggin' Andresen in the room. And one would think that he would be a pretty good person to judge whether this was a legitimate test or not. Gavin immediately came out and said based on what I saw, but there were a lot of things that could have been finagled in that whole thing. Was it really an untouched laptop? Did it really only get the freshest version of Electrum. And by the way, nobody on the Electrum side, the developers.
What about the keys? He had to
Well, that's interesting. We'll talk about the keys in a second. Nobody Electrum, they keep a log of whenever anybody downloads, like the MD5, to determine whether something is actually legitimate when it gets installed. That never happened during that whole period when this was all occurring. So there's no way to verify that he was actually using real Electrum software. There's no way of verifying that the Wi-Fi was not already done. And what he signed was basically the way he signed it. Anybody in the world could have copied and pasted what he signed with from the blockchain. So he didn't sign truly with Satoshi's private key. He signed and did it in such a way that it looked exactly like another transaction that Satoshi had done and had signed. So there's no verification there. It was done in such a way that you could not walk away from it and say this absolutely was signed by Satoshi with Satoshi's private key. There's no way that could have occurred.
I think we can categorically say Satoshi doesn't need some big rich billionaire miner to do things because Satoshi is a billionaire.
Yes.
Satoshi can buy as many mining rigs as Satoshi wants.
That's a good
and
point.
Satoshi could send a message through the Bitcoin QT software letting everyone know, hey everybody, Jesus is here, and Jesus likes Bitcoin SV. And that would be meaningful to some people.
Right.
And that would, the outcome of this little war would be settled at that point. And so until Jesus did multiple miracles, right? Not just one that somebody heard about.
Just looking for that one. It would be good. So that's sort of the one side. You have Craig Wright, who claims to be Satoshi, and he is pushing SV. A couple of the things that I found interesting about SV, again, the immediate jump to 128 megabyte blocks. Huge, immense blocks that, in the reality of, I invite everyone here to look at go to bitinfocharts.com. You can look at number of average transactions per day. Compare Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Dash, all these compared against each other. But other than Ethereum and Bitcoin, there's not much else out there that actually has any transactions on it that make the bubble move. They're both very, very low numbers for number of transactions.
Could every cryptocurrency in the world be combined and ever have reached 128 megabyte transactions every 10 minutes?
I don't doubt that.
I think the answer to that is no.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that at all. There are some that do have significant number of transactions, like Ripple, but exactly why, I don't really understand where the Ripple transactions are coming from, unless they're generated internally, because that's pretty much a closed system. So Craig Wright has a company.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the web address again?
Bitinfocharts.com.
Thank you.
So Bitcoin SV, we can talk a little bit about that. So Craig Wright has started a company several years ago called Nchain to do blockchain development. What I think has rubbed a number of people the wrong way, first of all, was he immediately went out and began trying to patent things. So I don't have a lot of details on what Craig has patented, but they are all blockchain related, and he's claiming rights over those. His SV, the big thing he talks about when in any of his interviews now, we're taking the Bitcoin 0.17 code and we're rolling it back to 0.1. We're doing away with all this stuff that has been added over the years. And I'll give you guys a link or share a link where a really good interview with him. It was on the crypto show where he talks a lot about this. He absolutely rejects CTOR, that idea that we can do a canonical transaction ordering. That's out completely. Again, the block size increase, the default block size goes to 128 megabits versus 32 on the ABC side. And it reinstalls several old opcodes, which include op-mul, op-l-shift, op-r-shift, and op-invert. It also removes the size limits on scripts. So again, this code re-enables some things that were done in the past, which in the same breath, Craig Wright will tell you we're all phooey. He has nothing but disdain for the direction that Bitcoin development seems to have taken since Satoshi left. I didn't agree with this. This was a horrible idea. Why did they ever do this? Why would we ever do that? But in the SV software, some of those things are coming back. And his goal, he says, is just to really dismantle everything that Bitcoin has evolved into and hence Bitcoin Cash has evolved into, and just go back to the roots. So you have two camps. The support is pretty clearly drawn. You have the Bitcoin.com under Roger Ver and the Bitmain support under Jihan Wu on the Bitcoin ABC side, and you have Calvin Ayre and you have Craig Wright on the Bitcoin SV side.
So,
Talk about hash. Go ahead.
yeah, it's going to be a hash war, right?
This is a hash war.
So it doesn't matter what people want, like what customers want. It doesn't matter what businesses want. None of that. None of those things are. You know, you can argue about it, but it doesn't. They're not on the table.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter how many nodes there are.
No more than it did a year ago.
Yeah, no, full nodes don't count either. It matters hashing power.
Hashing.
Is this the 51% attack that we hear about? Basically.
It is.
Okay, so this is the 51%.
Yeah.
If the government gets, or if somebody gets more hashing power than the Bitcoin network, then that person can take over the network and install their new software and that kind of thing. So, from the charts that I've been looking at today, it looks like SV has more hashing power, so we hear, than ABC.
Correct.
If I hear that Jihan Wu, certainly not a man of no means at all, has a bunch of miners that he's going to put online to fight back, and
Yes.
Roger Ver, also a man of some means.
Yes.
These are, so if you've got a billionaire on one side, you've got multi-millionaires, two multi-millionaires on the other. Jihan Wu has at least $600 million in, $597,700 million in Bitcoin Cash alone.
Right.
That is in his company, plus whatever else he happens to have in holdings. And Roger's got
Whatever
millions of
Roger has.
dollars. So are they going to then rent time on some machines to fight back? And how long could the war go?
It depends on what we see develop over the next couple days. I mean, if it comes down to a battling back and forth and one side increases hash, and I know Jihan is approaching the Chinese miners, I can't remember the name of the valley in China, but it's where all the hydro is. But approaching all of them saying, look, could you please start mining here? There's two sides of that, two sides of a hash war. First of all, there's the positive side where, I'm going to just mine the hell out of what I want to win, from the side, and not do it that way. The other side is to get all your miners to go mine the other guy's blocks but make them all empty. And that's going to be another tactic that plays out.
And that's the war part.
Yeah.
Because inevitably there will be a split.
Yes.
But From what I understand, they're saying they're going to take their extra hashing power and then mine a bunch of empty ABC blocks.
Sure.
So you couldn't get your valid transaction into a block.
And I hear Craig Wright intends, believing the things that Craig Wright says is a slippery wicket anyway. But I hear that if he doesn't win, he goes home. It basically shuts down, and there is no there's no split or anything, but it's just basically...
Loser leaves town.
Well, that's what it's seeming like. Now, there's no guarantee that'll happen either. There may very well be such a SV coin. And that they may mount another attack at some point when it's convenient to do so, which I suppose is good because that makes the network more resilient, more attack-proof.
Assuming you're successful in marshaling your troops to fight off an attack.
I think what the real danger here is that a person claiming to be the person who created cryptocurrency may very well be the person who takes it down if SV chooses, it does win a hash war, then we've shown hash wars can be won and how they can be won. So, now the game plan for war has been laid out, and somebody may very well come along and decide to do that to these annoying altcoins and these sorts of things. There's as much animosity towards altcoins as there is towards Bitcoin Cash amongst the BTCers. So, who knows?
It's going to be interesting. I don't know. I don't know what to make of Craig Wright. I really don't. I've never met the guy. I know he comes off as very, very arrogant. Occasionally he comes out as being very, very bright, very sharp. But I can't remember. Roger Ver quoted somebody else. Oh, was he talking about Jimmy Song? Anyway, basically, it's like if it turned out that Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto, it would not make me feel more positive about Craig Wright. It would make me feel that I have less respect for Satoshi Nakamoto. So I don't know which way this thing's going to shake out. I do know that it's a perilous time to hold a large quantity of ABC in an exchange. Do you want to go there? Do you want to be trusting someone else when we don't know where this is going to go?
I'm willing to risk my $10 with a Bitcoin Cash. If that's what it takes.
You're going on record.
I'm going on record.
I sold my Bitcoin Cash that was in an exchange today for BTC.
Yeah.
Bought it on the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bitcoin is not doing too well
Bitcoin
either.
Cash when it was really high.
Well,
I'm gonna
perhaps I
hold,
should have gone for cash, but Bitcoin really crashed right after that. Anyway.
I'm hoping to hold on to my Bitcoin
think
Cash
it's going
until
back
I
up
can
to-
buy me
I think
one
it's
of
going
these.
back
It doesn't make any
Whatever
sense.
watching
Why would he
the
come
number
out of
down
nowhere
here.
like all of a sudden when he already has all
It's gone up.
It's gone up. It was at like
Here's 24 hours.
right?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
And another
Yeah,
good
it's 50
question
Also,
is,
when you said signing stuff, I'm assuming now on the blockchain,
I
not
stopped
with
looking
his
at it.
GPG key or anything.
I don't
no, with the
I only
signature from one of his original
Yeah, what I
wallets.
do is
Yeah, but where we
look at
could
it,
have gotten that, he would have
see,
had
and
to
then look
import
at the
that
others
from the
that maybe I
laptop
liked.
somehow.
Right.
The ones with the big
So
I
what
don't,
he got
I don't
is
know
like-
all the
that's
mechanics
how-
of it, but
'Cause-
whatever he provided looked like the
It
previous
doesn't matter if the
exact
laptop's
signature.
sealed or not, even if it was sealed, he would still need to retrieve the keys. I don't think he would have memorized the entire public and private key.
Right. Well, yeah, and it wasn't in a room that he couldn't do anything like that. He had internet access and everything else. But it looked like he had copy and pasted the exact same signature from a previous signed.
You mean the
Like he
public-
copied and
yeah,
pasted.
Yeah,
Begin signature, end signature,
right.
copy, paste it, and that was it. And one, I would think that
Yeah,
that
but
would
then you have to
generate a new
verify
hash or
it.
something.
Yeah, but if it doesn't, what he wrote it doesn't actually work, like
I know,
match, then it wouldn't.
but that's what was shown.
Craig Wright can prove that he's Satoshi Nakamoto anytime he wants to,
Oh, yeah.
if he's Satoshi Nakamoto, and he can't if he can't.
Right.
And at this point, the only logical conclusion that one can come to is that he is not, because he hasn't. I mean, it's simple. He's got 50 Bitcoin blocks that were mined in 2009, and he's got a whole bunch of them. He's got a staggering amount of wealth in Bitcoin, and he, has no particular reason to be trotting out Bitcoin SV, unless he wants to make a bunch of money, in which case he's not Satoshi Nakamoto, because Satoshi Nakamoto doesn't need money.
Right.
So there's no...
Well,
There's an argument there.
Yeah, there is another aspect of this, and that is for the huge holder. If you have 1 million Bitcoin,
BTC or BCH?
I want to say either one.
All right.
Let's just say BTC, and it's last year, and here comes this young upstart, BTC or Bitcoin ABC, and they're going off on another direction. Oh my God! But what happens if they do that? Oh, I get 1 for 1 of every one of their coins. So if you're sitting on a huge stockpile of coins, a split is not necessarily a bad thing. If you've got $1 billion worth of coins, and if it splits and it's a failure and you only end up with another $500 million,
No,
I call it a day.
Sure, but the splits have run their course.
They have.
So if you've got a whole bunch of BTC and you're a supporter of BTC, you're a maximalist, it's in your interest at this point to squash
Sure.
the goose no
Sure.
longer lays golden eggs.
Oh, yeah.
Kill the goose.
Yeah.
Eat
I
the
was
goose.
referring to the split back then.
I know,
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
No, because I managed to overnight double my the donations that I got for my project. So
There you go.
But the people that he has, like Calvin Ayre, I mean, that's quite a mining pool.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
So I mean, he's obviously done a really good job of convincing these people, just maybe as he did with Gavin or other people along the way.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
So about him just leaving it if it doesn't work out, I only read that somewhere in all the interviews I've listened to this guy talk. He hasn't mentioned quitting once.
I've never heard that one either.
I early on I read
Yeah.
something that I thought he said, we're gonna let it die if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
I never heard him say that.
The crypto show interview was pretty interesting in just how ballsy this guy seems to be.
I didn't
mean,
listen to it.
He's just basically saying, first, and they were saying, what about BTC? It's like, there's no need to even go after that. Those guys are dead, they don't even know it. There's a critical flaw in BTC and Lightning that will cause complete destruction in 2019. Complete. It's like, what do you mean? Like the price is going to go down? It's like, no, there will be no more coins. Okay, so what are you backing that up? So you've got something that you
yeah,
know
but, I
about.
mean, anyone can become a con artist.
Right,
and,
no
try
one
to
else does. Nobody
fool-
else knows about this, but it is going to erase all Bitcoin in 2019. That's a claim. So, yeah. I didn't want to focus just on personalities, but sadly, this whole discussion is really about some personalities. And it's interesting from the maximalist side, people coming to Roger's defense.
The maximalists are coming to Roger's defense now? See, I would think the maximalists would side with SV just because SV is clearly the inferior product from what I can tell, and you would want to cripple your competition by supporting the inferior product.
Well,
Then again, I mean, these are people, and some people are motivated by principle.
Right.
And yes, Craig Wright is, if I have to pick between the two, I'd probably pick Roger over Craig Wright.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, and in the circles I run in and people I interact with on Twitter, it's not, God, nobody sees Bitcoin Cash as a threat to Bitcoin. That's gone. Nobody cares about Bitcoin Cash. That's the issue. And the only time that they get their panties in a wad is when somebody comes along and says, Bitcoin is not really Bitcoin. Bitcoin is fake stuff. It is Blockstream. It's FedGov money because Blockstream is owned by the Wall Street banks. And that's the only part that bothers people. They don't see Bitcoin Cash as even really a player. And when you look at that transactions per day, average transactions, it's just not, it's not doing anything. So I understand the sentiment, but I guess a lot of the maximalists just kind of felt that we duked this out last year. You went your way, we went our way. Have fun with your way. What I don't think anybody on the maximalist side really does is looked at this and went, you know what? Craig Wright is an honorable man, and we should respect Satoshi for his views and insight and should fall in behind him. Nobody in hell's saying that. On the other side, it is sort of interesting to hear, you know, the Bitcoin Cash side say, at least on social media, hey guys, it's not just about mining power. And you got all these maximalists going, where have I heard that before?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what they tried to tell us.
Interesting. The side is
Yeah.
turned there.
Yes.
You know, that part is interesting. It is just about mining power. You know, I mean, it doesn't mean that the best result will come, but it's
Right.
about mining power.
Yeah. So there's sort of what we know as of right now. We had Bitcoin prices crash today, Bitcoin Cash prices crashed today. Anybody see an update recently? I'm
I
curious.
think it went up
Bitcoin's up
was down
on your
to-
machine up to 6,000 right now.
Wait, did it actually go back up to 6,000?
Bitcoin's recovered a little bit in the last hour.
Gotcha.
That's good. I kind of figured it probably would.
5,900 right now.
It didn't drop enough to be.
It
50
went
what?
up quite-
5,900
For Bitcoin?
Bitcoin BTC.
Yeah.
I've got 5582.
I've got 56.
Let's
Seven
see what,
days.
Bitfinex
let's,
price.
Yeah.
see what I can.
Oh yeah, Bitstamp's down at 5,600. So there's a huge range between those.
Wait,
Bit-
does anyone use
Bitcoin-
Bitstamp still?
Hmm?
Do people still use Bitstamp?
I don't know. Somebody is.
I don't.
Bitstamp went out and came back, right?
Well,
I don't
Kraken's
know.
at 5582.
Okay.
I haven't touched it
People
since
use
like
Kraken.
2011.
Right.
Chris, earlier you mentioned Amori.
Yes.
Early this morning I saw where he said something about a patch for a proof of work algorithm change for Bitcoin Cash.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
What more do you know?
That was about it at the time. Talking about dropping that in, like last minute, in order to fight this thing.
Yeah, I'm seeing 5701.
Well, either way, it's on a ramp back up over the last hour.
I wouldn't think they'd want to do that just willy-nilly.
I'm saying 56,000.
I'm looking at CoinMarketCap. So where are you guys getting your numbers from?
BitcoinWisdom.com, there's a live chart.
I'm going to play a little bit of a trailer, or not a trailer, but a little bit of a video I watched last night.
Hey guys, good to have
Try
you.
to
This is
find
Colin and this
a
is...
discussion with Omri about this.
And the key to this is mining pool rate of the rated by net. Right? There... No. Or it is...
Yep.
Right.
Jump through the whole
And
video and you
ironically,
haven't found it, you're in the wrong video.
No, at first I thought you said that you were going to play a video.
Hey guys,
that
what is
Bitcoin
up? This is
SV
Colin
people
and this is...
came up with.
Gosh, all right, here we go. And I think this is Omri, and I think it's a pretty decent discussion.
of Bitcoin SV and Bitcoin ABC, both in...
Whoa.
both in direct competition with each other on this upcoming hard fork. And the reason this is a problem is because it's threatening a network split. So after a lot of research, I've looked at both sides of this, and I have come to be in favor of Bitcoin ABC. And I'm going to explain why. So the main reason I'm in favor of Bitcoin ABC is for technical reasons. I watched a video, which I'm going to put a link in the description below, where Amaury Sachet talks about Bitcoin ABC's approach to scaling. And it's very, very intelligent in my opinion. Basically what he's proposing is we fix the most difficult technical problems first.
Yes,
That's it.
so I agree, we need to get beyond 32 meg at some point. I'd like to put things in perspective. 32 megs is PayPal level volumes of transaction. So it's already like you are a worldwide payment system. You are not the payment system and the money of the world, but you are like pretty damn big. So we are there. Problem is we know that if we go beyond that, actually the software doesn't work at all. Like there is a bunch of problem in the software that make it so that it doesn't quite work. And so if you just increase the block size and you don't change those other stuff, the only thing that you achieve is that you increase your attack surface. Because so there is all kind of those vectors that becomes 4 times as bad if they are linear, 16 times as bad if they are quadratic, and so on, right? And so it doesn't seem like a very rational decision to increase that limit to increase your attack surface when you effectively cannot handle that transaction volume because of other limitation in the software. So we prioritize the work in a bit of a different way. So Bitcoin Unlimited has prioritized the work to work on the most immediate bottleneck first. So the first bottleneck we need, they work on it and then they go to the next one. At Bitcoin Embassy we have prioritized things in a way that is a bit different, where we prioritize the bottleneck that is the harder to fix first.
Yeah.
Because the way we see it is that the ecosystem is quite small right now. And so those more expensive change are actually impact. So any kind of change become more expensive as the ecosystem grows, right? So if we do the most expensive change that need to happen to scale properly now, the cost is less, is less big, because by the point we grow enough so that we hit that bottleneck, we may also be big, like very likely we will be big enough so that the cost is prohibitively high to fix those. And this is more or less what happened with the block size, right? Like for you're very early on, I don't know when you joined the space, but in like 2012, 2013 or so, people started talking about the block size, and everybody was like, we don't really care, the block has more, they are less than 100 kilobytes, they're gonna get bigger, we're gonna fix it, no problem, everybody agrees, right? This was what everybody was saying at the time. But then when we got close, we saw that we had a bunch of new actors in the space. Many of them they don't want to do because they have their business plan that were aligned with the fact that there is a limit. And so we find ourselves, and generally there is more people to convince as well, right? So we find ourselves in a position where it become very, very difficult to raise the block size, and we ended up having to fork to make that happen. So we very much don't want to find ourselves in the same situation again for other elements that limit scaling. And this is why we've been focusing on those elements that are the most expensive to fix.
I had a very open mind to both implementations. I watched videos from both sides and learned what each side was proposing to do. And
Yeah, so I think that's a good summarization of the philosophy on the Bitcoin Cash side.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. If you want to watch some Craig Wright, that's always entertaining too. But Craig really
Is there any
isn't.
videos of him yelling at people?
There's certainly emails of him yelling at people.
Like trying to assert that he's Satoshi Nakamoto?
Have you seen the
No, I have. I probably haven't.
the email he sent to Roger?
No.
Okay.
I haven't been following it.
We'll throw that up on the screen.
It's basically, fuck you.
Well, he says it several different ways, which he has a certain way of revisiting that.
I think he wanted Roger to be on his side. Roger at one point did believe that Craig Wright was Satoshi Nakamoto. He made that argument to me at one point, and he doesn't seem to believe that any longer. If one changes one's mind, that's fine. If one changes it because it's convenient, that's bad. So, I don't know. But to me, Craig Wright's never proven that he was Satoshi in the first place.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen any evidence that look like that.
Bigger than Clinton,
So
where
how are
was he?
you getting your phone on the projector exactly?
There's a Chromecast.
Oh, okay.
I'm off the back of there. Hopefully, find an article that has the entire email.
It's not that long.
Yeah. Wright allegedly wrote, "Side with ABC, you hate Bitcoin, you are my enemy. You have effing no idea what that means. You will, I am Satoshi. Have a nice life. You will now discover me when you're pissed off, and no, you could have had proof. Your choice, F you." So, there was a bit more to it.
Sounds more like a con artist, if anything.
Yeah, I don't know. To each his own, and
This war would be over relatively quickly if he just came out and proved that he was Satoshi. There's no war anymore.
Yeah, but then he destroys what we think of Satoshi Nakamoto.
yeah,
So like then you'd have little to no credibility at that point in my eyes.
Credibility doesn't seem to be big in his mind. Not with it. I mean, did he think that email wasn't going to get out?
yeah, I don't think he cares, and he is bombastic everywhere he goes. I mean, he insulted, what African country was he visiting? It was one of the poor countries. They were having a blockchain event, and he basically stood up there. I'm going to paraphrase. He said, "I could buy this shithole country like 5 times over. That's what you've done."
He said I have more money than your country.
So
Exactly.
the thing though is, has anyone compared the emails from Satoshi Nakamoto versus this asshole?
And you can read.
But also, I've heard that it also could be several individuals.
Yeah,
as well.
and I believe that possibility. I believe that Satoshi may have been a team. I think that's highly likely.
Yep. That's certainly possible. If, for instance, I claimed to be Free Talk Live, we didn't know who Free Talk Live was, and I claimed to be Free Talk Live,
Right.
that would be both an accurate and an inaccurate statement.
Are we having
at the
this
same
whole
time.
discussion again?
I don't think so. I don't know what that discussion is, but
Okay, never mind then.
if I, and if somebody asked me, go ahead and prove it, pop on the satellite channel.
Right.
I would have no clue how to do that.
Right.
Ian would have to pop on the satellite channel, but it wouldn't be inaccurate for me to claim to be Free Talk Live at the same time.
Yeah.
So, maybe Craig Wright was some kind of, impetus behind this. It would seem like you'd need more programming chops to be Satoshi
Right.
Nakamoto, but I could be wrong.
Great.
Yeah, I sent you a copy of that tweet where he was recommending, he was saying maybe have a proof of work change ready.
Cool.
One from Memorial.
They used to have a saying, all that matters is code or something to that effect. Show me the code.
Right.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
So,
Should get a patch ready. It's better to be ready and not need it than to need it. That's from Del Nix.
Who is that exactly?
He is a prominent developer on the Bitcoin Cash side. So Peter Risen, I'm trying to think of who some of the other guys are. Gentlemen we just watched. I just don't know their names. Common Fund initiative to change the proof of work algorithm before 1511. So that's interesting. So yeah, you change your proof of work real fast, then suddenly it becomes impossible for anybody who doesn't have ASICs built for that particular proof of work algorithm to do anything with it. So that negates the ability for your enemy to mine empty blocks on your chain, but then how are you mining them? Are you going back to GPU mining? And how do you do that?
Well,
over a short period of time. If you had months or weeks or something like that, I get it, but
the
I don't
story I
understand if
heard
it's
was
tomorrow.
that Jihan has these miners that are offline right now, and that at some point or another you're going to flip a switch and the money-making machine's going to come on, and
Right.
I suppose it's possible they uploaded some different software with some ASIC Boost 2.0 on it
Right.
that makes it changes things. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't propose to know.
Right.
But
Shihan's.
Basic Boost is part of well, I don't think that'll work. So.
I don't know. I just I know that Jihan was related to ASIC Boost. You should
For sure. And the theory that he could take the power that they have for BTC and aim it at ABC. Since it's a shareholder-held company.
Well,
He
I feel
can
like
just take that and do what he wants with it.
I feel like Bitcoin Cash hasn't really gone anywhere to begin with, so I'm not sure how much this whole split.
I watch the
concerns me.
Bitcoin.com channel every week. Roger puts
Yeah.
out another video, and he talks a good game. He says, basically, Bitcoin Cash is accepted in more places than Bitcoin BTC is. That if you're looking at pricing, right? Like Bitcoin is not a commodity. It is not intended to make anybody rich. It was intended to be a currency
Right,
that people
okay.
could trade in. And that currently, his claim is the Bitcoin Cash is more of a currency than Bitcoin is, even though it doesn't really matter what it's worth. It just matters that you can buy and sell in it. And
I mean, if there was adoption where businesses were accepting it, then yeah. But if all people are doing is trading it back and forth, it doesn't really.
It's not that there's adoption that people are accepting it. It's adoption that people can accept it, and that's the claim. So there are.
Yeah, I understand. I just don't see the value in it
If people aren't using it.
Yeah, if people aren't using it for actual transactions to
That's
buy and sell
because
stuff.
libertarians got into cryptocurrency to change the world, to do good, and did very well. And in the process of doing well, they stopped caring about doing good. Okay? Because cryptocurrency no longer matters. What matters is a digital tradable asset.
So yeah.
With a lot of dash transactions.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about the site, but this is comparing blockchain stats. We have Bitcoin, and I could expand this, and you'll see that it has its highs and lows.
What's with the?
This is the Bitcoin.
No, but what's with the dash?
I don't know, and it certainly raised my curiosity. But you have this pretty steady line, but in Bitcoin Cash red,
It's pretty meager.
Yeah.
it is, but it's right there with Dash, and it's
Who
right
put together
there.
this color coding?
Yeah.
I mean, Bitcoin should be orange, Dash should be blue, Bitcoin Cash should be green, and then we'll make Litecoin whatever the hell's left over.
It's to play with your expectations.
Okay.
Can I go back to something Chris said? Maybe I misunderstood what you were saying earlier. You were saying basically who cares what happens to Bitcoin Cash? Because
No, that's not what I said. I said who cares about a split if it's not being.
so this
used.
isn't about a split. This is about war. So according to what we talked with Vin Armani last night,
Yeah.
if Craig Wright's side can destroy Bitcoin Cash, if there's no split, if what they do is they just attack that blockchain to the point where it becomes unusable, it gets given up by Coinbase, it gets given up by other exchanges potentially, it gets
Right.
given up by wallets, it destroys Bitcoin Cash, then the idea is they could turn their guns against any other altcoin, maybe even against Bitcoin, but certainly against every other altcoin out there. So whether you care about Bitcoin Cash or not,
That makes a lot more.
Yeah, that's
makes
right.
a little bit more
That's
clear.
it's crazy.
That's a better
But,
argument, and I understand that. And
I don't
can
really
see
see
that.
a way of really protecting against that.
Well, the only way to protect is to protect in this first salvo, and if they can protect that, then that'll be a
Right.
good sign.
Well,
But you're not, the problem with this kind of war is things don't actually get destroyed. You know what I mean? If you could actually, other than money, because Craig Wright, to perpetuate an attack costs money.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
Lots of it.
Lots of it.
Thousands of
And
dollars
that
per
is why
hour.
the original, game theory behind Bitcoin was pretty cool. It makes it punishingly expensive to attack a chain. But if you've got somebody who just doesn't care, and let's say it's Craig Wright and Calvin Ayre don't care, then yeah, you can do what you wish. Now, a lot of people will argue that there is no real security in cryptocurrency outside of Bitcoin. And what that simply comes down to is a summation of hash power. And when you're looking at Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin, I think you're looking at somewhere around 10-fold difference in hash power, ballpark. So say it's 5 exahashes or whatever level we're at versus 50. I think that's about
Yeah,
a ballpark.
that's what it said on the chart, I think.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, so there's your ballpark difference. That can always be made up, but we got a finite amount of electricity. We got a finite amount of manufacturers of ASIC rigs. So it's kind of interesting. I do wish that they would do a code inside these miners that, when attacked, they would physically explode. I would just love to. Wouldn't it make a hash war more interesting?
$9,000 an hour was the Bitcoin Cash number for hash, for a 51% attack.
And that's what it is today. If
Right.
Jihan can get some people to switch their miners over for whatever reason, and it's just about money. These people don't care. So I need you to switch your miner over, and
So,
here's
wait,
some money.
so it's $9,000 an hour.
That's not very
That's
much.
what he. That's what he need. That's what you would need to sustain, and you need to be able to sustain that.
Right.
So.
But that's actually really
For
cheap.
at least 200 blocks, I think.
But that's really cheap, though.
It does sound really cheap. I don't
That
know
sounds like Uber.
the exact
cheap.
math, but there's a number.
Yeah.
There's a cost. You can figure it out with pencil and paper.
There's
Yeah,
a
I
website
mean-
that gives you all the different.
That's
from
interesting.
Bitcoin on down.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
what
I
that
forget
is-
what it was.
I think we always knew that the altcoins are more problematic. It's just
Yeah.
I think it's more interesting that we haven't seen anything else really take off outside of Bitcoin from a hashing perspective. But at the same time, I think we have a situation where other cryptocurrencies are being used, not so much Bitcoin, but more so Dash, a little bit Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin. I mean, what else is there? Monero may be used a little bit too. What other cryptocurrencies are there that we're
Hold
seeing?
on.
in the
Let's
real
look
world?
at the Monero numbers.
And I don't care about the transactions, because the transactions don't mean anything if they're not being used to purchase real products.
Right. Well, we can look at those things, and we can look at the average transaction amounts and things like that, and define what you feel is actually used. Now, I don't know if Monero ever shows up accurately on these charts because of its use
Why would
of
it?
ring signatures.
Right.
So I think when you look at Monero, you're likely to see a 0.
I'm still shocked at the whole Dash thing, because that's got to be like a fluke, because why isn't Dash really...
Right. But Dash's typical level is in...
It's like negligible.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see where that is above, and say we're looking at somewhere in the 0 to 10,000 range where these guys usually float.
And it's the same 300,000.
Yeah, and I just don't know what that Dash anomaly is. But it's anomalous, and it already ended whatever it was, like within the last half hour or so. So it was probably response to this presentation that caused Dash to
Of
spike.
course, it had to be. What else
Did
could it
it?
be?
I mean, obviously. That's absolutely.
Well, wait, this is November.
No, this happened yesterday.
Today's the 14th.
Yesterday. So when was
So
the
2 days ago, then, 3 days
Well,
ago.
well, what's been in the news? We've been talking about the split, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's what did it.
Yeah, and you see a similar spike in
although that would be
Bitcoin
Cash.
Cash. Something happened there that shot it up over
Yeah.
$1 million. And
Well, that was everybody buying it.
yeah,
Yeah.
We're gonna get to Bitcoin.
yeah, everybody was convinced that if there was going to be a split, then they could walk out with 2-to-1 money. And if SV is trading, futures are trading about half of what Bitcoin Cash is. At least that's what it was last time I checked, somewhere around
Wait, they're
200.
already doing futures when it hasn't even gone live?
Oh yeah.
Yes,
But
yes.
how do they figure what it's actually gonna be worth?
Doesn't matter.
It's trading on a couple of markets. The futures are trading.
Yeah.
That sounds like a scam at this point.
It's down to 168 US dollars.
And where's Bitcoin Cash at? Still over north of 400?
Right now, 435.
Okay. Yeah. So it seems to be holding up. I don't know where this goes.
Both are down today.
Yeah. I'm not a speculator in either one.
Down.
So what else? Anybody else have anything to add? Any ideas, thoughts?
I don't know, maybe turning up.
If this
the
war is
difficulty.
successful for SV, you ought to get out of crypto.
Yeah.
Why can't they just crank up the difficulty?
Well, I mean, okay, so hold on.
Because like
I don't know if getting out of
solve
crypto is
most of the
necessarily the
problems,
answer
right?
because we still do
I'm sorry,
Bitcoin
just
and
cranking
we're
up the
working against
difficulty.
Bitcoin. So
To make it so
Why not?
taxing that it's not worth it at all.
But then you have no miners.
Now it's
You
all
have
it
no
is a
miners,
matter of
you have
money.
no security.
Yeah, but
Or
the amount of money
adapt
that
it so
would
that if
require
someone
to
does
sustain this
attack
attack would probably
that,
be
that it
feasible.
literally
Right.
just makes them bleed money.
I don't
Not,
think- I don't
not
think
if
we
you can
do
take down
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
And I think
Why is Craig Wright taking
Or
down
to
Bitcoin
account for
Cash?
that anyways.
You can only take Bitcoin Cash because it requires a lot
That's not
less
answering the
money.
question.
Datasig Verify. They
He-
believe that Wormhole,
Or
which is this
What about,
tokenization type thing,
not something like
will
proof of
basically
stake, but
make
like the
it
idea
illegal
is you have
in
to
a lot of
prove that,
countries.
you're in
same
it for the
type of
long
thing that
run.
Ethereum
Yeah.
is dealing with.
so.
So he's trying to
So you
rein
won't
it
start
back
mining
in.
actual coins
So
until like
if-
you.
From what I have
if
heard
they've
this
been around
man
for, like, a
say,
year or
when I
something.
take away
There are
all the
people that have
negative
talked about doing
things
sort of
that
a
he
hybrid
says,
proof of stake, proof of work.
it doesn't,
Only allow
I
proof
mean,
of work
it sounds like what he's
if
saying
you're
makes a lot of sense.
Proof of stake to
Not to say I'm
such a
taking
level.
his side, but if you take away the arrogancy of
That
him,
probably-
Yes.
that
listen to
probably
what he
goes,
says.
ways in
it sounds like he has a lot of relevant things.
Yeah.
They sound like good
those
arguments.
types of attacks.
So
Especially if you
maybe their
wait
chain
that long,
is,
but
you know, what
also
they
if you
want,
have
but-
unlimited resources, you could
but-
get all these
so
resources
Datasig
together and then
Verify-
when you're
Well, I'll hold their
Also
chain if it
known as-
continues.
And the other thing they talk about, they talk about it
Um,
for the ecological reason.
For whatever reason, they don't want that.
So
in there.
honestly, if you did something
He
like
made
that,
it sound like
and
that
you-
made,
You had
He
your
doesn't like a privacy coin at all.
difficulty adjusted to such a point.
well, so the thing with
It was
Datasig Verify
prohibited
is
to come
that
in, but
once
you
that's
had
in there,
a number of
anybody that
centralized
mines
miners
that or a
who
node
could
that
do all
runs
the
it,
mining to keep your
it
chain
now
going.
makes it
then
so
the
that they are
power
criminal
usage could
in terms
plummet.
of,
But in all these
enabling
things,
things,
you're really
like-
promoting a very
I don't know the
centralized
exact terms for it.
system. You know what I mean?
But whatever
Yeah,
country or
That's-
wherever
that's
it's
the
at,
double-edged sword.
it's not legal to run
I
that.
like to avoid that.
I don't know,
This
but
is
I mean,
kind of
like, it is
what that's
something that we should probably.
But he also claims to be, libertarian.
It's not
Libertarian.
So yeah,
and then,
this was a link
you know,
Michael
his-
provided, but
His will to sue and trade
Yeah.
patents and talk about those.
So,
sort of
yeah.
things.
I don't consider that libertarian.
1 hour attack cost here for Bitcoin Cash is $31,000.
yes,
Yeah, so that's quite a bit more. That's
right.
And it's 10 times that for Bitcoin.
So 10-minute blocks still on Bitcoin Cash, right?
Yes.
10-minute blocks. So, and we were talking about 200 blocks, so 2,000 minutes, which would be. I don't want to do this. I'd screw up that screen, but 2,000 minutes is.
A lot.
So he's answering the question.
Yeah.
Why it's not going to work.
33 hours.
What's 33 hours?
How long you would have to sustain
And then, okay.
an attack?
at $31,000 an hour.
Right,
Yeah, it's a lot.
right.
So it has to be 2,000 hours?
Well, you'll never necessarily kill it.
Well,
Right.
yeah, the
Depends on which
idea
side gives
was
up first.
somebody had thrown out it didn't activate until after 200 blocks or something like that.
What doesn't activate?
What's that?
What
It
does it
takes
actually
a
matter?
certain number of
Somebody here
blocks
said
for
it.
the chain to actually diverge.
Right.
So I want to say it's 100, maybe 200 blocks. I don't know.
I thought somebody said 200 blocks because I did not have that statistic.
Yeah.
But say it is 200 blocks, then you're talking 33 hours at $30,000 an hour. Now, our math may be off. Let's say it's 100 hours at that, but that's still, it gives you the total cost of your attack.
Looks like a $6 million attack.
Yeah, and that's not
Somebody's-
outside the realm of a lot of people.
Somebody's gonna have to be really
But
determined.
that's a $60 million attack to take down Bitcoin, by the way.
60 million?
And that's nothing.
Right.
If you want to take down Bitcoin, if you have a legacy banking system to protect, $60 million, that's bailout money for a minor bank.
Dude, that's a tenth of one fine you'll have.
That's
to pay.
why everybody has to get behind Bitcoin Cash ABC to stop this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You can't let the one nation get away with attacking the other nation, just stand by and go, huh.
Michael, what was the 100 minute or 100 block? Or
I'll find the link
Well,
of where I read that.
what was it that you were? I wasn't paying close enough attention to what you said. What was
So
that number?
at some point,
So
as the
which
chains
site are you
go,
usually on?
right?
You're on
Like,
the Bitcoin
let's say you run one
Embassy.
version of the software and I
I don't
run
care.
another.
Okay.
I
At
just
some
don't-
point, the chains
Um,
begin to
I
diverge
don't like
because the
Craig
transactions don't match up.
You're talking about when this
I like
schism
Roger.
happens?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be as soon as the
But
first
I
block
thought
is mined
the
on the
handling
new
of
software?
The whole Bitcoin Cash thing was poorly.
I don't want to get beyond.
I'm pretty sure that's what
He
it is.
didn't do
'cause
himself
why would
any
it wait?
favors.
'Cause as soon as you mine a different block on the new
He lost
software,
a
you've
lot
got
of
a new
people
chain.
perspective.
Yeah, I'll have to find where I'm referencing that.
For that, I think it's a shame.
So who else is SHA-256? Is that the mining?
That is the
that's
algorithm.
Does that
So there's a whole lot of them that are SHA-256.
does that mean that
A SHA-
whoever, the attack by SV could be mounted, the next day
Yes.
on Bitcoin, or
yeah.
whoever has, because Litecoin I thought was SHA-256 too, and that says script.
Yeah, Script is big. Script was created with Litecoin.
Okay.
And it's a very lightweight, very, Jesus, here we go. eHash, that was a product of Ethereum.
Right.
When that came out, Equihash was basically Zcash is the biggest name using it. Kryptonite is used by Monero and somebody else. I want to say Monero. Equihash for Horizon. Einstein. Man, I might just do my 51% attack on Einsteinium just to say I did it.
I took them down.
It's very tough.
I ruined people's hopes and dreams.
Unobtainium, SHA-256. So you can kind of get an idea. Yeah, Litecoin Cash is actually doing.
Hey dude, what about that
SHA-256
one?
too.
The Bulwark.
Bulwark.
I've never heard of
Only
Litecoin Cash.
$4.
Yeah. But as you look at these, it's a function of a couple different things. I've got 2 teraflops. Is that what we're measuring in? Yeah, that's sorted this way.
I think I'm talking about replay protection,
Yes. Okay.
or without replay protection.
So at what point would you
That's
give
one of
up?
the issues with this current
Yes.
system.
Like, we need to know what if you're going to fight a war, you need to know what a loss looks like.
Right.
When does one side, what does a loss look like for each side? So for SV, they go on for a few days
Right.
and they lose many millions of dollars, and they say, I'm tired of losing millions of dollars. I don't want to lose more millions of dollars, and they stop. And then they do whatever they do after that.
They could either stop their attack or stop mining SV or one or the other. Like they could just
Right.
stop the attack and
Right.
continue mining SV.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
is, if the F3 people are rabid about Craig Wright and they believe him, and I'm sure they've got their reasons, then his name runs behind it, and that's
I mean, doesn't See, what I do have an issue with understanding why somebody would attempt such an attack, because if it succeeds, you've undermined the value of whatever it is you're attacking.
Well, if it splits, then they have their
But it becomes
SV,
worthless.
not the SV, because
No,
now
it
they
becomes
have
worthless because anybody can do it again.
if they have a hash power.
Right, but anybody, I mean, in theory, any coin could always be attacked, but that doesn't stop coins from increasing in value. Even though this is out here, and even though, I can take down Bitcoin for 490
The reason
$8 an hour.
that I think it continues to have value is because it doesn't make sense for anybody to attack something in which they've made an investment in, which it would be one reason to attack it, but that would undermine your very, I don't know, just...
Yeah, no, I understand, but part of it is if you're mining something, which is the only people that can create an attack, you have a vested interest. Your choices are this: make money or spend hundreds of thousands of dollars attacking something.
Yeah, but if you
Make money,
right.
spend money attacking. So unless you have an end goal, and I frankly, I don't understand really what Craig Wright's end goal is, other than it's what, bragging rights? If he's been so upset with the direction that Bitcoin Cash ABC has been going in, why is this a big deal now? Why all of a sudden now? Number one. Number two, if this whole idea about a split was so desirable and the direction everything was headed in was completely wrong, completely against Satoshi's vision, where the hell were you a year ago? Where were you when it was Bitcoin ABC talking about splitting off of Bitcoin? Where were you, Craig?
Well, he was out there supporting the split.
Yes.
We know where he was.
Was he? He wasn't very vocal. Maybe in some circles. I don't recall seeing an interview with
I don't
Wright.
follow the guy.
Yeah.
I do follow a guy that follows the guy, and that's
Right.
Roger Ver. And Roger Ver, at that time was of the opinion that Craig Wright was Satoshi Nakamoto.
Right.
They thought he was an ally.
100% on. I know.
And they thought that, the Bitcoin ABC back then was Satoshi's vision, right? There was a lot of talk back then about
Right.
how this is the true Bitcoin because
It still is.
no segregated witness.
Right. So where was Craig Wright then?
I think he was on the side of Bitcoin Cash, but again, I don't follow him either.
My point is why wasn't he sitting there going, no, Bitcoin ABC? That's not Satoshi's vision.
Because he may have thought it was at the time. That was before they made more changes, and now he's saying, whoa, too many changes.
Possible.
That's my understanding of it.
Yeah. Possible.
The other possibility exists that he's one of these people that is sort of a pathological attention whore. And,
He's a psychopath.
well, he's not going to... If you use the term psychopath to mean that he's not going to act in a logical fashion, then yeah. If you understand that logically he wants the most amount of attention focused on himself right now, no matter what, then everything's fine.
I wonder if the ulterior motive is to increase the value of Bitcoin, his Bitcoin fork, not necessarily to fork the blockchain itself.
His
Would
Bitcoin
that
fork,
be
the SV?
Yeah, does that make sense? What I'm saying? You following what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Could be. People would. He specifically fled Bitcoin on an exchange or Bitcoin Cash to go back to Bitcoin. So that indirectly, if the other people did that, would increase the value of Bitcoin. Is that what you're saying?
Clearly, not enough people did that today.
No. Well, I mean, okay, so he's forking the blockchain, or he's trying to anyway.
Proposing
and
another
taking
version of
it over.
software.
But maybe his objective isn't really to take it over, it's just
To create yet another.
to create another cryptocurrency, and this
Right.
is the attention that he needs in order to do that.
And for that, I get it. There's a financial incentive to that. If I just fork it and split off, then I can talk all about Bitcoin SV as a competitor to Bitcoin ABC, Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin.
It seems like it would make more sense to me because
Because he's going to get one of each one.
Right. I don't see how it him succeeding is
Benefits
going to
him.
be his benefit. I think it's going to would cause a collapse in
Well,
cryptocurrency value,
you-
especially with altcoins.
We've seen a lot of splits, and the splits are becoming less and less valuable as time goes by.
Right. Sure.
So you need to do a split in a different way, and maybe the way to increase the value of SV, presuming he's successful, I think SV will be powerful, will be valuable. I don't like the software idea of let's go back to Bitcoin 0.1. I mean, that sounds stupid to me in the same way that, hey, Mark, want to go out and buy a Model T Ford? Well, no, thanks, I don't. I prefer my 2016 Honda.
Well, I could see that. I can understand that if the original was better than what we have here and now.
They claim it is.
And sometimes that happens. I mean, they
Sometimes it
produce
happens.
cheaper products. I mean, it happens all the time, actually. They produce cheaper versions of stuff, and the old stuff was better. You know, quality is goes down,
Sure.
and it's cheaper to buy, but the old stuff was still better. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be the case here.
No, but I think I sort of at least in my head, I've hypothesized the exact same thing. You going to be able to make fire. It's great when my girlfriend's notifications pop up during presentations.
She's not sending you those.
Could have
sort of
been
pictures,
worse.
yeah.
Has been worse in the past. No, I think that's certainly a possibility. There's a value in that. I mean, Bitcoin Cash instantly, overnight, created hundreds of millions of dollars of wealth out of nothing, instantly. So why not? You know, I agree with you completely. I think there is a motivation there.
What I've heard Craig say is that they have lots of businesses that they are working with, and that they want something that they can present to them in a fashion that hasn't been tampered with, and that they control. They don't want it to be forked or changed all so often.
Right.
Okay.
So why destroy Bitcoin
it's not,
ABC
yeah, it's
in the
not a
process?
selling point.
Right.
If you have to change your or update your POS system or change it every year or so, that's like.
Doesn't every software have an update?
That's not how that works though, because you have to. You're like if you deploy AnyPay, you're dependent on them to accept the new fork or whatever. Or what if they choose the wrong fork and the other one becomes popular?
Yeah.
So I mean that's a problem because most people don't want to have to deal with that, or tell the customer no, we accept all this, and this, but we won't accept this, or we won't accept the one that becomes popular because we have to wait for an update.
The other thing that's bothers a lot of people is this idea that much like people saw Blockstream as the ones that control the Bitcoin BTC software, that now N-Chain will be the one, Craig Wright will be the one who controls Bitcoin ABC. Or not Bitcoin ABC, but Bitcoin Cash. Basically, Bitcoin Cash will die on the vine, and now we have to look to our benevolent dictator, Craig Wright, for direction and things like that. So there's that aspect of it too.
And if you want to accept the currency, you're going to have to sign a piece of paper that says Craig Wright's Satoshi Nakamoto.
Right.
You know, I mean, whatever it is they want to do.
He has talked about
Just prepare.
different ways of monetizing it through N-Chain. That's why he's been big on creating his own companies and creating alliances with Calvin.
What the hell does he want to monetize anything for?
Because it's all about capitalism. That is his quote. He claims to be a pure Austrian, and that's what this is all about. And nobody since has ever understood that whole part. It's about economics. Well, I think a lot of people have talked about cryptocurrency and economics, Craig. I don't think nobody gets it. I think a lot of people get it.
All right.
So any final thoughts? Take your Bitcoin Cash, put it underneath your mattress. That's where you want to hold it for the next day or two.
Won't the bits fall out then?
So you're recommending holding?
I'm putting some on an exchange.
Are you?
Yeah.
Going for the split?
I don't
It
know.
makes the split easy.
Well, yeah, it makes the split easy, and if they kill Bitcoin Cash,
Right.
Vin was talking about sell it, beforehand. I mean, who knows what's going to happen, right? Like, it could come out victorious, but if they kill it, if you sell it for Bitcoin beforehand, then you don't have to worry about it, or you wait till the split and then sell it for Bitcoin, and then sell the SV tokens they give you for Bitcoin, and get out of both of them.
Right.
Yeah, but
So that's
the
a
time to
possibility,
sell
too.
was like ages ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, there were high water marks, but
Last night it was 9% of a Bitcoin. Today it's 7% Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when it was really, when both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash was,
Well, hindsight's always 20/20.
We weren't.
Question is,
we
what do you
just
do
weren't
tomorrow?
Watching CNBC at the right second when Bitcoin Cash hit $7,000 for 10 seconds or whatever it was on there.
Do you have a restroom?
I do. You go through this curtain right there. Watch your step. Turn to your left, and it's down at that.
Like he handed me his little
All right.
thing.
Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Let's put a kilo around there.
Yeah, I know, right?
Appreciate you guys coming out. So it's good.
Yeah, it was a good presentation.
I didn't present a damn thing. I had 3 slides. One of which had anything on it. Oh, plus the title slide. I forgot. Title slide looked good though. I like that.
So where would be the place where one could watch this thing live?
Yeah.
Like CoinDance or something like that?
Cash.coin.dance is tracking several statistics.
Okay.
Yeah. They're always good with this.
We'd like to invite you to visit freekeen.com. Freekeen.com features audio, video, and blogs chronicling the transition to a voluntary society. Freekeen.com also has comments and discussion forums so you can be heard. Freekeen.com.
I should be in Keene, New Hampshire with the Free Staters.